All right, welcome back, League Niners. We've got another swing breakdown here for you this week, but we got something a little bit different. We're going to kind of go back to breaking down swings of guys we know in person, regular guys playing, not guys getting paid to play this game. So we got our buddy Sam here today, who plays on almost every team that Jason and I play on, maybe every team that Jason and I play on. So we play a lot.
Innumerable teams.
There's so many teams, whether it's league or it's tournaments or whatever it might be. Play on a lot of teams here. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at his swing today. And again, today's goal, a little bit unlike the Conference Pros where we're trying to point out all the amazing things that they're doing all the time. We're trying to point out all the good things we do, but then also look at the things that we can improve on. And hopefully us going through those things can help you, the viewers, to also be able to break down your own swings and check out, what you can improve on and what you can make or what you can do to make your game better. So we're hoping to do that today. But real quick, we do want to give a shout out to sponsors, San Francisco Baseball Academy, which we now have on the jerseys. So sponsored on the new jerseys here for the Sharks. And then also Stacy at ASP, who make these jerseys up for us. She does great work. So let us know if you need a hookup for either one of those things. But let's check them out. Right. All right, so we've got Sam's swing up here. So we're going to look at a couple of swings today, but first one we're going to look at is a swing where everything goes right. So we were out, did a little BP the other day to get a few swings on film, and this one was probably the best swing of the day. Rocketed the ball out to left center field, hit it about a little over 300, 310, 315, something like that, but it was just a great line drive shot. Ball never got more than 30-ish feet off the ground. Was a great hit. So we're going to take a look at this one first. Let's take a look at it real quick in full speed a couple of times just so you can kind of see what it looks like. Let's go. Big swing. I think he surprised himself on how far the ball went.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't
I thought it was
quite
going to be a
sure.
wall ball for sure. Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at it in full speed once again. Nice back, big step, good brace, nice flat swing, follow through. So got that ball going out there. So I'm going to bring it back again. Let's take a look at it in slow-mo. So as he's getting ready here, preparing himself, coming through, pretty decent size swing. I would argue you might be able to work on a little bit bigger step just to maybe, get a little bit extra. But again, from the ball that got hit off of this swing, there's nothing I could complain about here. Gets his hands through, that bat head is lagging back like we talk about a lot. You'll notice all that weight has transferred to that front foot, so much so that his back foot is way off the ground. Straightens out that front foot to brace against it, makes great contact with a flat swing, and you can see that I guess top wrist really throwing that bat, flicking it through, and a nice flat solid follow through there. So those are things that I've seen a lot, that I point out a lot on, or Jason and I both point out a lot on some of the pro swings. I'd love to hear what you kind of think about your own swing, seeing it here. And
I think so. The first thing you mentioned was like the size of the step, which is, I think it's interesting because I like watching this footage. I feel like my step is actually like a good bit shorter than it usually is. And I think that might just be kind of some adjustments that I've been making recently. It's kind of like a constant process, right? Like you go out and, like play some games, you see like some things that are going wrong. And I think that recently I've been like getting under the ball a lot. And so I was just kind of trying to like shorten up a little bit, like keep that stride a little bit more compact with some of the swings here, like wasn't getting as much power as I do sometimes.
Okay.
But it's kind of like
this one.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about that nice flat like backspin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, I know it's something you've been working on for, I don't know how long, 6 months, a year, or whatever. You used to have every swing was more of a golf swing, which again, you still kind of have that as a tool you can use, but I know you've made a concerted effort to like flatten out that swing a lot and to not quite get under and loft it quite as much. If that shorter step is something that helps that, like, you're not going to hear me complain about it, right? It's everybody's going to have like something that they have to do different to adjust for something that they're working towards. So, kudos to you for doing that and getting that nice flat swing out there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like I played baseball in like through high school,
yep.
And I got into Slowpitch in college, but I like didn't really have anyone like on a day-to-day basis to like practice with. And
Yeah.
so what I would do is I would just like stand out on the field and I would like throw the ball like up to myself and hit it. I think because it's like kind of hard to do that accurately, like have the ball come down in the strike zone, the higher you throw it, I would be like, the ball would be coming down and getting my other hand like on the bat,
Yeah.
and I'd be catching the ball kind of like as it's getting low to the ground. And at that point, like the only thing you can do is kind of like swing down at it. And so I think that I kind of like artificially developed this golf swing, like as I was like like practicing that kind of slow pitch in the first place. And you're right, like over the last like year or whatever, as I've been joining all these teams and like trying to kind of get more consistency, I've been really trying to like hammer out that like upswing. And stay flat on the ball. So yeah, with this swing, like I think it works out. We see we have a couple other swings like during the footage where you can kind of see like where that goes wrong, and then another like couple of swings where like okay, you still see the golf swing and it like works out, but like it's not always
doesn't always work. Yeah, and
right.
And
exactly.
a thing just I've noticed too, and I'm sure you've noticed it as well, with when you do use your golf swing, which again you still can, like I've seen you use it effectively still, but now it's more situational.
Right.
Maybe it's like, okay, I've got 2 strikes and I got a ball that's close, I gotta hit it no matter, I gotta swing at it no matter what, so I'm going to use this tool. But and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I always feel like when you do use it, you kind of swing and where it goes. Like you may not have as much like control over, hey, I want to hit this backside, hey, I want to hit this pull, hey, I want to hit towards whatever, a 5-6 hole. Like, would you say that's true? I mean, that's what it looks like from an outside observer, but I don't know for sure how that feels from the batter's point of view.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that like sometimes like when you break out that upswing, like it's probably gonna go like where the pitch is a lot of the time. And I think because like based on the angle of the bat, right? Like if you're swinging flat, you can kind of like angle your body or like angle your swing where you want the ball to go. When the bat is like down or like at an angle, you're kind of like your point of contact is more like side to side, and so it's a lot harder to control when you're hitting kind of like the side of the ball as opposed to like the bottom of the ball, like what the direction is going to be.
Right. Yeah, because that's what again I've noticed a lot is that if you have a flat swing like you do here, depending on where you contact the ball, it's either going to go up or out, up or down. Right. And then wherever you're hitting the ball, it's still going to go in that direction. But I think when you get that uppercut swing, that's when it's like, instead of out, up or down, it's either out, way left or way right instead of, and it's always up, like it's almost always up. So I've definitely noticed that over whatever the time frame is that you've really embraced flattening out this swing and working towards it, which again, whether it's flattening out a swing or whatever it is, I think it's just a good testament to like that anyone can take, hey, I found something that I want to improve on that I think is going to make my game better, and like literally just incrementally taking care of it over time, and then like now you're hitting the ball really well when you swing flat, whereas I think it was pretty foreign to you when you first started doing it. You're like, what is this craziness? I don't quite understand what I'm doing here or why I'm doing it. So
I think it used to be kind of like something that I would break out like only on like kind of high pitches, or like around my neck, and I'm like, okay, I can flat swing at this, like this is what I know. It's like kind of like a tomahawk, and now it's kind of like evolved to be more of the default state where the golf swing is kind of like break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the fire alarm that you have to pull sometimes. So I gotcha.
Yeah, a couple of things. So one thing that's interesting is like, so this ball is like pretty much like a pull shot, right? Like I think this one went out to like left center.
It's left center, yeah.
My step here with the front foot is like inward.
According to that mat there, you're maybe like 6-8 inches in on the line of the batter's box there. And then when your foot actually lands, I did notice that too a little bit. And again, it may have just been like where the pitch is, but again, when you land that foot, it closes up towards right field a little bit. Again, you probably make up for that 8 to 10 inches or whatever it is. But yeah, a little bit of a step in. I would say usually that's the look when you go oppo, but it may just be a step in to hit a ball that was, it looked like it was relatively over the plate, but
yeah, I think it was pretty much middle. This may have just been like I was like looking to go oppo for a lot of the swings in this session, and then kind of got one that was like a little more inner half and ended up just kind of snapping around on it.
Yeah, and again, it worked. So the ability to adjust for maybe not the exact pitch you were looking for is a pretty good skill to have. So I would say that worked out just fine in this case. And again, I've seen you do that a lot. You tend to like inside pitches, I think. So
yeah,
I think that's probably a strong point in your like, hey, I'm looking to go oppo, but if I get that inside pitch, I really know what to do with it.
Yeah, another thing, like, as far as like the weight transfer is concerned, like you mentioned, like my foot actually comes like all the way off of the ground on this stride, and I feel like maybe that's actually something that we could improve. Like on this swing, I feel like maybe, I guess if we can see the point where the foot actually comes off the ground, it's almost like a toe tap like in the back.
Exactly where it happens here. Probably right about there.
Yeah. So it kind of seems like the foot is coming off the ground like before all of my weight has actually transferred forward, which might actually be a case of like losing a little bit of power here. I know that's like one of the things that I've seen like, when I'm kind of swinging, like maybe my swing is going all right, but like the ball isn't going like as far as I kind of like would expect it to for instead of swings, where I'm kind of not focusing as like enough on keeping that back foot down like as long as I should, and kind of like losing some of that force off of it, like kind of like lifting off the ground.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that. And again, I think maybe, and again, I know you said that you maybe didn't step as big as you normally would. I think that might be part of it too. I think if you had just and we're not talking about much, like 6 to 8 inch longer stride.
Sure, yeah.
That might even remedy that a little bit too. So
not a whole lot you need to change about this particular play.
Yeah, not a ton to change on this specific one, but again, it's always good to look and see like, hey, where could I make an improvement, right? You always want to get better. Like until you're the best guy in the game, like you better always be looking to improve. I know I always am. So
absolutely. And of course this is like one swing out of like 40, right? And this is probably the only one that was like that, the sizzle line drive over the fence. So always room to improve that percentage.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you want 75% sizzle line drives instead of 1 out of 40 or whatever it might be. So cool. Well, let's take a look at another swing here. All right, so we're going to take another look at another swing of Sam here, and this time what we're going to do is we're going to try to look at one that was maybe not exactly what he was trying to do. Didn't quite go as planned, so
we can call it bad.
We can call it bad, but I'm trying to be nice here. But so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this one here. We'll look at it in full speed real quick. And you can see by his facial expression, he was not happy with it.
Probably a lazy fly out to the center fielder.
Probably a lazy fly. That's a good point. That's probably a lazy fly out to center fielder.
Unless they're playing me like super deep or like super shallow.
Right. It's the one where those are the ones where you get the respect base hits, where it's like they're playing you so deep that you just happen to just flare a not so great hit to short center field or whatever, and they can't quite get to it. So, all right. So let's take a quick look here in slow-mo and see exactly what happened here. So South San Francisco Parks Department represent. So we got a little step in here. I would say that is equivalent or maybe even a little bit bigger than your previous step that we looked at. So I would say that part went well.
Yeah.
But I think afterwards is where it became a problem. So big thing that we notice here, again, leg gets straightened out, you're braced against it, back foot's coming up, so that all looks good, but I think it's really about where the pitch was located and how deep it got on you, and then therefore it's forcing you to short arm a little bit. So you kind of got a little bit of the T-Rex arms on this swing, trying to get the right angle on it. So I think that was probably the biggest issue here, and then I'm guessing you probably got a little bit close to the handle instead of full barrel on it as well as getting a little bit under the ball. Yeah, one thing that I think is a big thing that we've talked about a lot when we broke down, like when I broke down my swing and Jason's swing and some of the other guys we've done, is that sometimes when you get that U shape, so if you look at the bat head, like once it gets flat here, it kind of goes down and then it comes back up. And that U shape is usually what happens when you get those fly balls, or like sometimes if you dip a shoulder, like to go backside, not just you, anybody, when you dip a shoulder to go backside, that's generally what happens. You get that U shape instead of the flat swing there. So if I was looking at it, that to me looks like the biggest culprit on that. So let me know what you think here. Like what stands out here to you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all of that. I think like for the most part, like lower half here is pretty comparable to the other swing, like interestingly enough. I think that like the kind of initial pass to the ball is relatively flat, like maybe a little bit up, but like mostly on the flat side. But I think that like kind of the failure mode here is this is probably like what I see most of my outs these days, which is why I kind of wanted to talk about this one, where like it kind of comes down to like almost like pitch selection and like indecision kind of, and I feel like this is like a timing issue in large part. So like this pitch, yeah, probably like kind of inner half, and like if you were to, I think I was looking at this last night, and like if you kind of compare like this swing side by side with like the good pull swing where I actually barreled it, like the ball is like noticeably like a few inches deeper into the zone by the time the bat is making contact with it than like on a good swing. And so it's kind of like you said, like short arming it, where the, you know, think maybe, you know, I thought this pitch was going to be a little more outside, or maybe like I guess in a game situation, like this is BP, so I'm probably swinging at more pitches, but like a game situation, what I'll see happen is like a pitch, you know, maybe I think it's coming in a little shorter, a little deeper something, and then I kind of like change my mind last second that I'm going to swing at it, and then kind of because of that indecision, my timing is off, and then I end up hitting it kind of like later in the arc than I would normally. Kind of like, you know, ball's close to your body, you can't get out in front of it, and you kind of have like nowhere to go but up with it, I guess, kind of, because like you're kind of trying to like downswing a little or level swing at it and like hit kind of bottom of the ball and trying not to chop it into the ground. But because the ball is like kind of on you instead of in front of you, you kind of end up hitting like down at the bottom, and it kind of goes straight up.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of, yeah,
I was gonna say, so would you say even if let's say you were swinging at this pitch, you got to do it over again, would you say that meeting that ball maybe like hitting that ball, striking it maybe where it's sitting right now, and then pulling that ball like, you know, basically down the line or a little off of the line and hitting it hard line drive down the line would be the better swing there, instead of trying to let it come a little deeper and then end up having to put it, you know, pop up to left center? Obviously nobody wants that result, but like, are you saying like that would be maybe the place to fix that?
Definitely, yeah. I think that's probably like by the end of the swing, like that's, or like by the end of like the pre-contact part of the swing, that's what I'm trying to do with this pitch, and kind of my body is like too late on that, so I end up hitting it up. But yeah, absolutely, I think this is probably an inside pitch, and like ideally I would be hitting this, yeah, like you said, like down the line or kind of line drive to like left center-ish. Cool. But I think just the swing path is a little behind the ball on this one. You know, you can kind of see what happens there. Okay,
and just kind of a last point here, just again for, obviously, if you're going to self-reflect, but also for us that are watching it, like, how would you go about fixing that? Do you think it was more of maybe not recognizing the exact pitch you thought it was, or do you think it was more about timing? Like, which one do you think, if you were looking at this and you were like, how would I improve, which one of those things do you think would be the more apt thing to practice, I guess?
Yeah, I think probably pitch recognition is like the biggest thing here. Like, depending on the count, right? Like if this is a 2-strike count, I should probably be saying, okay, this pitch is like at the very least close enough to the strike zone that like I should commit to swinging at it instead of like going halfway on it, and then I can kind of time it up and, you know, and see where I want to place that ball. And if it's, you know, maybe not a 2-strike count, either I should kind of decide like, all right, I'm going to try to attack this pitch, or if like it reaches that point where I'm going to be late on it, like just let it go and don't try to kind of like late swing at it, because obviously that's not going to go well. Exactly. Yeah,
exactly. Let's take a look at another swing. All right, gonna take a look at a third swing here. So this one is gonna be a pretty good like line drive base hit, but to the opposite field. So I know, again, not just you, but pretty much everybody on all of our teams, I think, have been trying to really perfect an oppo swing. So this is a very good example of it. So again, let's look at it real quick in full speed. Get back there, comes in. He's looking right side the whole time. Let's take another look at it. Again, looking, looks like it's probably an outside pitch. He knows it. He's gonna take it to the right side. So let's look at it here real quick in slow-mo. Won't spend too much time on this, but definitely want to point out a good swing to the opposite field. This is a good swing that's gonna be a base hit most of the time. Again, nice stride.
Pretty
probably short. Yeah, maybe a little short, but I would argue pretty good still. This isn't like a tiny stride. Plus, again, you're coming towards us a little bit as opposed to straight out. So again, that might be just a little perspective issue, not seeing quite the length there.
Stepping toward the plate instead of in front of the plate.
Exactly. And again, those eyes are looking right field the whole time. Let that ball get just a little bit deeper than normal, on purpose, obviously, and then just drive one probably over the second baseman's head into right field. So pretty good swing there. Again, that's going to be a base hit a huge portion of the time. Tell us what you see here, what you think went right, or if there's anything you might want to change you think you do a little better with.
Yeah, so I guess like one thing that's just kind of different about it is like what my like what my legs are doing here. I think with kind of those other swings where I'm kind of trying to hit it to like the pull side, you can kind of see like getting out in front of the ball and really kind of striding onto that front foot and transferring all that weight. It seems like with this swing, I'm obviously striding forward and kind of like stepping into that front foot, but like if we go toward the end of the swing, it's almost like I'm kind of sitting back on that back leg. Especially during that follow through, which I think is just kind of like trying to stay back on the ball, right? Like if I'm kind of getting out, like trying to get out in front, it's going to be really hard to like actually hit it to right field. So I think this is more of just like a really letting the ball get deep in the zone and like stay deep in the zone. Because I think that I've noticed like sometimes when I'm trying to work on that oppo stroke and I'm not getting the timing right on it, I'm kind of hitting everything like just the middle instead, because like that just isn't traveling deep enough, and I'm still kind of catching it out in front a little bit. So even though I'm kind of trying to push it that way, I'm still like getting around on it. So I think that's one thing here, and I think like with the sitting back part of it, like obviously you're not going to get a lot of distance on that swing.
Sure.
And so like if this was trying to be like an oppo power swing, I think it would probably look different.
The one thing I was thinking of, it just kind of popped in my head, our buddy Hoser, who has a really good oppo swing. His is a little bit the opposite, but he's still, it's two different ways of doing the same thing. Like you're kind of staying back and you almost lift up a little bit, which I think that's just part of like trying to get the bat moving in the right direction. Whereas if you ever look at his, like he's almost coming down and into it when he goes opposite side. So it's like almost looking at different ways of like accomplishing that. So it just kind of popped into my head that those are two different ways of doing it. Now, I would say, again, great hit. It's going to be a base hit every time. I think you could probably, instead of lifting a little bit here, I think if you found a way just to stay down and not change the swing at all, you might actually be able to get that extra bit of power. Whether or not it's going to change the result of the hit or not, I'm not sure. For me, whenever I think about power, I'm not thinking about, I'm trying to park one. I'm thinking about if the ball I hit and it goes to the second baseman or it goes to the right fielder and it's, whatever, it's coming in at 10 mile an hour faster than it would be otherwise, that's just that much harder to field.
Right.
So again, not a lot to complain about here. Just, again, if there was one thing that I was going to say, hey, maybe you could try to work that out, it would be like trying to get a little bit more of that staying down in instead of lifting up. But again, positive result here. And again, this, I can't imagine, unless they're playing the weirdest shift in the world, I can't imagine this isn't a base hit pretty much every time. So I wouldn't have any complaints about this if I was watching this, as a teammate in the dugout. I'm like, great hit, on to the next, so.
I totally agree with all that. That was actually the thing that I was going to call out, is just kind of like I'm kind of coming up at this ball, and like we actually have like a little bit of, we had like some drone footage of this swing, and seeing the path of the ball, it is like more of a top spin line drive kind of that, like, over the second baseman, it kind of lands like right center field, like, in front of the outfielders. Right. And I think that like, if I were to improve this swing, you would obviously want to try to cut the ball a little bit more, get more of that backspin on it, because instead of like a kind of definite single, like I think unless someone really badly misplays this, like it's going to be a single, like 9 times out of 10.
Right.
Unless I'm trying to take a hustle double on it, but
which you have been known to try.
I've been known to do. But like kind of if I were to get like a little more cut on this and not come up at the ball so much, like maybe this is able to hit a gap and roll to the fence or something like that.
Right, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make too, is that if this ball is a little bit more down and hard, and especially if you're playing on like a really nice field, it's got a turf outfield or just really nicely cut grass, like
for sure,
if that ball is a little bit more down and hard, you might get an extra roll and get past that outfielder and get that ball to the wall, and then you don't even have to hustle that much for your double.
Right. It's
You
always
just
nice.
stand up double, right?
Or maybe it's hustle triple at that point.
Maybe we'll see. But yeah, I mean, again, great base hit swing.
Yeah, I just think that like this like oppo line drive swing is probably the biggest thing that I'm like trying to work on, at least like consistency wise. So just kind of breaking this down and trying to figure out kind of how to get it like down and hard and kind of get that swing like as consistent as possible, because I think kind of the failure mode for a lot of these is like I'm coming up at the ball and kind of end up, you know, hitting like those lazy fly balls to right field if I'm like really trying to hit oppo, instead of just going with the pitch. Like always room for improvement there.
Yeah, and again, I have the same problem, and my usually is not that I come up like you do, it's that I drop that shoulder, you know. So I have to like purposely think about not dropping my shoulder when I'm hitting oppo, so that way again, so I don't get those lazy fly balls and I can get these line drives in for base hits. So I definitely get it, especially when you're doing something that's not like, it's not your number one hit, right? It's not like the thing that's like you got down pat. It's the trying to do something different. Doesn't mean you can't be successful with it. It's just like you have to concentrate more on what you're doing and what your actual goal is. So I think that's a very good advice for all of us here. So cool. Well, let's take a look at one more swing that's a little bit of a novelty swing. We're going to take a quick look at it. Okay, so the last swing we're going to look at here with Sam is his patented golf swing. Now, I was just pointing out to him that obviously this is the thing he's been working on and trying to work out of his swing for the most part and only use it in certain situations. And I will say that this one is far less of a golf swing than some of his older ones. So he's even been improving on this kind of novelty certain situation type of swing. So let's take a quick look at it. A little harder to see in full speed, but once we get into slow-mo, we're going to be able to tell for sure.
Oh yeah.
So definitely a little bit up on that swing there.
Yeah, picking through the footage, I did have to like kind of slow it down a little bit to like find one that like really like qualified as the
as the uppercut
golf
swing.
Yeah.
So we'll just take a look again. Similar step, but you'll notice he's getting down in a little bit more of a crouch position here. And then you'll notice that back knee gets way down low. And let's look at the bat head. So about here generally is when you're going to flatten that swing out normally, and you're going to just try to cut straight through it. But watch that bat head get way down low. So starting back here, maybe like hip or slightly above, and that bat head gets down to like knee, maybe slightly below knee, but he's able to make contact with this ball. Gets the arm straightened out so he didn't have to alligator arm it, and again is able to kind of drive it with I think a bit of top spin, which again I think is what really makes this work. So you get that top spin. This one probably went over like maybe right over second base or slightly to the right side, and again it's just going to kind of loop over and drop in really nice and easily. So again, this is a bit of a novelty swing, but again, still has a use here and there. Now, again, that pitch here, probably not something you're swinging at unless you got 2 strikes on you already and you're kind of protecting, but I would say that's when this tool probably becomes the most useful. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that like the interesting thing that I've noticed is kind of the more like the more like I play in tournaments and like leagues where the plate is not a strike, but I've been able to kind of settle into that flat swing like much more easily. And I think that like you could probably look at my stats in like San Francisco League and see that they've gotten like a good bit worse over the last few months, because in San Francisco like the plate is a strike, and you see like a lot of the crafty pitchers are trying to throw it like at the front of that plate, which like if you're standing square in the box is like not a very hittable pitch. And I think that like when the golf swing was my default, I was able to like kind of like get those looping line drives like, you know, right into the outfield like pretty consistently, especially on like some of the lousy outfield grass, you know, maybe some like, weird hops or whatever, you get extra base hits on them. And now like I think unless I'm scooting up in the box or like, you know, breaking out this swing for those kind of like 2 stretches that are coming in short, like I have a lot harder of a time with those. So it's an interesting like it's an interesting change to see over time. But yeah, with this one, you can kind of see like the path of the ball. Like I guess it's coming down, and like right off the bat, like the angle is pretty far up. But I think even by the time it gets out of the frame, you can kind of see that topspin kind of flattening it out again.
Yeah.
So this is definitely one of those ones that I think this might have been even like straight towards center field, but kind of by the time it's cleared the infield, it's kind of coming back down again.
It's coming down quicker than it normally would, right? It's dropping over the infield, but in front of the outfield. You know, when this was your everyday swing, I think you were consistent. You'd hit the ball well, but I think there was a lot more luck involved than there would be with your new flat swing. And so I think now you have a lot more control over what you're doing, and you can do things a lot more purposefully. And then you can kind of use this again, like we said, when it's like, hey, there's 2 strikes, this one's close, we got to do something with this pitch. Might as well try something. You know, again, if that's going to be a strike, you got to swing at it, you got to make contact, and if this is the best way for you to make that contact, it's great. So definitely kudos for working it out of your everyday swing and working it into your novelty when I need it swing. But again, it still works for you when you need it.
No, I agree with all of that. I think it just all comes down to consistency, right? Like this swing is going to work like, you know, some percentage of the time when you can get those like topspin line drives, but like you said, a lot of it, like, it comes down to luck a lot more often, especially when it comes to like getting those extra base hits, right? Because even if you square it up, right, a lot of the time it's going to be that kind of topspin line drive into like the short outfield, and maybe you hit it hard enough, maybe it, you know, hits a bad bounce in the outfield or something, and it's going to roll. I've actually noticed, like, on the ones that go to right field, like I was saying earlier, where you kind of hit the side of the ball, you can get that really funky spin like down the right field line and like burn that right fielder. But a lot of it is going to be more beholden to kind of like where the pitch is and just kind of like the situational factors, instead of really intentionally controlling like where you want to put that ball.
Exactly.
And like, obviously, once you get to the higher levels, you really want to have as much intentionality there as possible. So.
Yeah, and again, it definitely works. And again, I kind of look at it as the, like, every once in a while you get a ball that you hit and maybe you didn't hit it great, but it just happens to do something great, and you get on base and you're just like, well, that's kind of a freebie. Like, that's kind of, not exactly, but a little bit of what these were. Was, again, it's like, well, I hit it and now it's like curling way to the right and I got a double out of it. But you're like,
right, was I trying to do that?
Yeah, if I tried to recreate that, could I? Probably not. But hey, you know, once in a while you take those and you chalk them up to, you know, it's just the opposite of when the fielder makes a ridiculous play that on a ball he should have never caught, right? It's those that balance out. So it's it's just they happen sometimes. But really good taking a look at these swings here. Appreciate you coming in in Jason's absence this week, since he's out of town. Thanks, viewers, for checking us out. We really appreciate you watching the videos. I know you guys have been checking out a lot of the Conference Pro videos with Brandon Traylor the last couple weeks, so we really appreciate all the new subs and everybody in here. So please, if you would, like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff, so that way you can be notified when we put out new content. And we really appreciate you coming out. Thanks again to Sam. And
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. We will see everybody next time.